Thank
Did you.
you.
Did you get some sunglasses or something?
I did, yeah. Zip. Oh.
Oh.
Ow. Apple. That just flicked back and hit me right in the eyeball.
Hello, welcome to Podcast versus Player. We're doing a thing that all good YouTubers do. We're doing a trailer reaction video to something that is probably very close to Dan and my heart. That is obviously Matrix Resurrections, the newest Matrix installment. As you can see,
that's when you can put the graphics in afterwards, where I just like come through the phone and.
well, like Freddy Krueger, or
What do you think, Freddy Krueger? Like
he came through the phone
ahead with the times now.
yeah. But I've just realised.
Is there a Nightmare on Elm Street where he came through the phone?
Yeah, his tongue comes out the phone and stuff, doesn't it?
What a gross film.
Yeah, I mean, it's not nice. If you listen to one of our previous podcasts, you'll know that that's the only film that scared me.
Well, with the big tongue down the phone. I didn't use a phone for years.
I cut my own tongue off. I will say though, Dan, whether you know it or not, you've gone for a Matrix theme. Obviously, you've got your cool shades on, and you got Pac-Man pills.
I want the blue one.
Yeah, so that means you stay in the real world.
Phew! Who wants to go into the cool Matrix? So there's, I mean, it's not so much a trailer reaction necessarily because we already watched it.
No, we're going to talk about it and stuff.
Yeah, this has been a long time coming because I don't know if I've necessarily whinged about it on a podcast, but probably. So. But every few months or so, I know to you specifically as well as other people, I've been like, there is a Matrix film that is being worked on right now. Why haven't we seen a trailer yet? Why has there been no trailer? And I've been going on about this for about a year, right? Today, the 9th of September 2021, we finally got the first actual trailer of The Matrix 4
Resurrections.
Yeah, I literally just laughed at you for saying that as well. You've got it in my brain.
There's a film coming out. We know they're working on it. We had no trailer or anything for it. What's it called, Dan? I fucking know.
Well, to be fair, we only got a working title like a couple of weeks ago. They actually confirmed what the fuck it was called.
I mean, there was like 3 names floating about, and this was one of them. Obviously, it was a rumor until it was confirmed. But I got a text very early this morning, Dan saying, well, the trailer, it said it was going to be on today. Where is it? It's not here yet.
I was fucking livid. I was just like, it is Thursday, and they said that it was going to be Thursday, and I watched that really cool little advert thing. Did that freak you out when you watched the trailer and it told you the time?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was watching it, and I was like, because a friend of mine sent me the link to the website with the pills on it. Like, not drugs. There's a red and a blue pill. And I was just like, oh my god, is this actually the trailer? And then always just like a funny website sort of tie-in thing. Clicked on the red pill and it was like Matrix code, and I was like, oh, this is promising. And it's like, oh, blah blah blah, Matrixy sort of stuff. You act, but you think it's 8:29. I was like, wait, what? And I was like, oh right, yeah, of course they've just tied it into the internet, and then they've recorded. Poor bloke who's just recorded every single minute of every hour just on the off chance that someone's commitment to the bit, that is. And the light's just gone off.
I know, yeah.
Is an agent going to come bursting through? Oh my god.
It might do. Keep talking.
Right, okay. But that genuinely freaked me out for like a second, and I was just like, how could it know? Oh right, yeah, obviously, like the internet and maths and stuff. Duh. But for like that split second, I was just like, that is the freakiest thing. That is a good little tease. That is.
Yeah, it was very cool, and it's something that obviously back in the day we wouldn't have been able to do any of this kind. Not we, because we didn't make it. But this feels like this could be like the definitive Matrix film, even if they don't do another one after it or anything like that, because we've got the technology and we've got the special effects and stuff to actually do. The Matrix was a technical marvel when it first came out, and I intend to watch it this weekend because Zoe still hasn't seen The Matrix. The only time Zoe's seen The Matrix is when you were here and we made her watch it and she fell asleep on the floor.
I remember her falling asleep, yeah.
But
because I don't really have a there's certain things about Reloaded and Revolutions that are just sort of like, oh yeah. But it just seems that they just been given a lot more money and they focused on more of the sort of special effecty stuff rather than.
I think it looks worse.
What, than the first one? I don't know. I think the first one just felt more risky, I suppose.
Well, because, it was, wasn't it, at the time?
Like, an agent was this unstoppable. You'd never want to fuck with an agent, you know. And then it got to the point where it's just at the end of the film, and the agents are like, "Fuck it, we can't do anything with this guy. We're out." And then it started so strong with like the start of Reloaded, where like they're having like the captain's meeting. Bear in mind, I've watched the original Matrix 100 times, easy, like since it's been out, and Reloaded and Revolutions I watch a few times a year probably. I fucking love that franchise. I know you hate it.
I don't hate it, you fucking don't. I just don't like this. I think the sequels are poor attempts of cashing in, and I think there are only two good entries into the Matrix franchise, and that is Matrix 1 and the Animatrix.
The Animatrix is pretty solid. I've got a comic book as well. It's like it's basically sort of the storyboards from the Animatrix is pretty much what it is. But it's a really fucking good read, that is. But I'd say that given the fact that, you know, since Revolutions came out, after that, there was a Matrix peak, wasn't there? You know, we had the Matrix, then we had Reloading Revolutions that came out about 3 or 4 years later. But we had
Nokia 7110.
Oh, booming business of phones, sweet flip down phones, yeah. But then we had Enter the Matrix, we had the Matrix Online, we had the Path of Neo, and then after that, stop. There was just nothing else.
Because after the first Matrix, they lost a lot of money.
Well, you say that. I don't think they did.
No, in terms of box office. So it's very... Obviously, we're going to move on from this very quickly and jump into what we're actually here for. But in terms of success, The Matrix was obviously a breakout success that I don't suppose Warner Brothers expected it to get as big as it did. And then obviously they've pushed forward, get these sequels out. It's a load of fucking money to get them out. They wasn't anywhere near as... Maybe personally, there wasn't anywhere near as good. They made a lot of money upon release, but in terms of reviews and how people took to them, it was very, very negative. And the same with the games. They bought out all these games, and they're all garbage. Again, like we were...
How dare you?
No, we were discussing this the other day. Path of Neo, I loved it. I loved the Path of Neo, but it's not a good game.
I remember playing because
it's not.
Enter the Matrix ran parallel like, with Reloaded and Revolution. It wasn't the best one, no, not by a long shot. But like doing a mission and like, you know, Niobe's missions like blow up the power station, and then like you're driving on the freeway and you've got to catch up, and then you just get there just as Morpheus falls on, and that's what happens in the film. It was a great little tie-in, but no, it didn't handle particularly well. But also, don't forget, this was 20 odd years ago.
Yeah, it was a good idea.
You know, it wasn't. I just don't think that they could have executed it in the way that today they could do. And you know, you need to go through many generations of trial and error to really figure out. Okay, Matrix fighting. How's that going to work? How's that going to work?
I'm crying then.
Now. No, I was just so gutted about it. The obvious answer is Arkham. Like the Batman free flow combat system. You just fucking button mash and you can just Matrix move, and you're doing like your gadgets and stuff, but instead of gadgets, it's like, you know, flips and guns and shit, you know.
I know obviously it's a kind of a carbon copy, but I'd say more the Spider-Man combat than Arkham. Mainly because it's faster and more, it's like super like aerodynamic and a bit more power to the stuff, whereas Batman's obviously just brawling and whatnot. Gadgets.
Yeah, maybe so. I mean, but I think just the
but that idea, I know where you're getting at, like being able to just do sick combos into good attacks and blocks and stuff,
and shoot someone and you know, dodge a thing and whatever. Yeah, it's I think plus especially as Warner Brothers own the rights to the Batman Arkham games and the Lord of the Rings, like, you know, Shadow of War and Shadow of Mordor. you know, again, that's really sort of like fluidic combat, and you can take out whole groups of fucking dudes.
Sorry, I was just thinking, like, when you said that, for some reason in my head, I had the Nemesis system. And we're like, oh man, remember this agent? He's really angry
Agent
now.
4, Agent 9, Agent Johnson. Like, which agent's that? I don't know. They're all in the same fucking suit, aren't they?
It's his nan.
But yeah, I've been a big supporter of, you know, and again, you know, with anything that I kind of really like, you know, it's not perfect. But I think it was more just sort of like the concepts that I kind of got from the first one, and like the creative way that they actually made this and made it look the way that they did. It just, as a kid, I must have been like, what, 13, 14 maybe, sort of 12, 12, 15-ish, that sort of age. It blew my mind. Like, I was just like, this is just, it was like watching John Wick for the first time. You know, when you just see somebody, you're just like, oh, this is how you, this is how you do something like this, you know, like, it's kind of like, you know, it's these sort of like long strings of movements, and you know, these great fight scenes and stuff like that, and then this, you know, this kind of weird physics, gravity breaking kind of whole, like the whole, just, and I wasn't aware of sort of like, you know, anime and like Japanese cinema and, you know, the kind of the comics that this sort of stuff is based on, but that as like being just like a mainstream exposure to it, I was just like, I'm all about this, like this is just the best thing ever. But after Revolutions and that kind of just bookend on the whole thing, and there was just nothing else afterwards, not even like a fucking mobile game or something that came along.
I mean, it probably was.
What, on a Nokia 3210?
No, I mean, like, now there probably is a Matrix game now or something.
Maybe so. I reckon it's more sort of like, you know, Matrix code on a wallpaper or something like that.
Probably, yeah. Fun fact, though, The Matrix was the first film I watched on DVD and with surround sound at my sister's house.
No way. That's a good one to have, like, with the sounds and the punching and
then we watched Aliens after.
Oh,
it was a good day. And then we played Resident Evil 2.
Why would you want to leave that memory? That's
I didn't want. I wanted to live there.
Perfect day, isn't it?
But
yeah, I didn't think that we'd get to the point where another Matrix film would come along. Obviously, there was incredibly early talks about this years ago. But I thought it's one of those things that just seems to just sort of go around every now and then, like, oh, you know, we're making another Indiana Jones film, and we're going to do another blah blah blah, and we're going to do another, and then nothing ever really comes of it. It's like, it's an interesting thought, but what do you do with it?
Yeah, exactly.
But to then see that kind of confirmation, and to see that, oh, this isn't just a pipe dream anymore, you know, people are actually doing this, and then, oh my god, that's a still, like, that's a photo from, like, they're actually literally doing this now. And knowing all of that, and like knowing how much I love this franchise, and having to wait until fucking 3 months before the damn thing comes out to see this trailer, it told me two things, right? Either one, like the coronavirus has had a big issue on this, and they just had to sort of like force it all together, you know, at the end of it all, which means that they haven't really been able to finish everything properly and then get it to a trailer house until about now, or they're holding off on it for as long as they possibly can do, because they know it's not very good, and they're just sort of like, as long as we don't hype it up for a year and then people are just like, oh my god, a new Matrix, and then they go and see it and go, oh, well, that was a bit disappointing. There's been billboards and posters and shit everywhere for years.
I mean, we've only just had the trailer for Spider-Man as well, and that's out at the same time.
True, but we know what to expect from that.
If you were Warner Brothers and you knew that this film was bad, would you release it at the same time as Spider-Man? The Spider-Man that's potentially going to bring the multiverse in tow properly to the MCU. That's going to be successful no matter how bad that film is.
Well, I could tell after watching the actual trailer, because like the teaser thing was awesome, but it was like 4 seconds of actual footage that meant nothing. It was all out of context and stuff, and you couldn't really get a glimpse of anything. Watching it now, though, having watched the trailer for Bill and Ted 3 when that came out, and I was just like, this looks like absolute dog shit, and I think I'm not going to like this. Then watched it, and I was like, oh, that's That was so disappointing.
I still haven't watched it from your recommendation.
I'd say that it's still worth it because like the Bill and Ted franchise in itself is still great, but that was just, it didn't need to be made. It didn't need to exist. Having watched this trailer now, I'm just like, I cannot believe it's been this long before we've had to go back and do it again. Like, this looks fucking good.
Looks very good.
But do you have any thoughts on the trailer itself? I mean, before we get into any kind of specifics of it, like,
I'll be
what's
honest,
the general vibe?
For a good portion of the trailer, this could have been any film. Like, it wasn't necessarily Matrix heavy. Obviously, once they get into the nitty-gritty, you got the red pills and the blue pills and some of the cool stuff going on. And it seems like, obviously, Neo is in a kind of like an existential crisis or something. Maybe was it all real? Are they dreams? Is he going mental? That kind of. We don't use that word here, but I don't know. It feels different to the Matrix, and it's really hard to explain what I mean. But like in the original Matrix, obviously Neo's just a regular guy. Obviously they contact him through the weird old IBM fucking
well no
PCs.
Again, I've watched The Matrix long enough to know that is wrong.
What?
He wasn't just a normal dude that all of a sudden they went, oh Neo, quick, you're in the Matrix, you need to get out of here, son.
No, what I'm saying is,
he was a hacker. He was trying to find them for years before they finally managed to sort of cross paths.
That still makes him a normal person until it happens.
I mean, normal-ish. He knows what the Matrix is.
Batman was normal until he became Batman.
Alright, who'd win in a fight, Neo or Batman? I mean, obviously Neo, but for argument's sake.
He's got the Arkham combat. No. We've already decided that is the default combat system.
I'll give you two scenarios then.
Which Batman?
One's in the real world, one's in the Matrix.
Well, in the real world, Batman.
Yeah, in the Matrix, not a chance.
Well, I don't know, because
he's fighting Superman.
What's Batman in the Matrix? If normal guy Neo is Neo, what would Batman be in the Matrix?
Probably really annoyed because he was like, I spent years like learning martial arts and stuff, and you can just call someone up and download it into your brain. I think he'd just try and find a program that could recreate his parents, and then he'd be like, forget the fight and stuff. I want to live in my manor with my parents, and let's just leave it at that.
Why wouldn't you in that situation?
Well, I watched when. Like, because again, you know, like when there's certain, like when a TV show is really, really popular, or like when there's a film and they kind of make like you know, like with like the Terminator and Terminator 2 and stuff, they'll make a documentary about how all that happened, and they get like experts, like, you know, historians or whatever, like cinematographer historians that talk about, you know, how poignant this is and whatever. I remember I did watch one, probably on Channel 5 or something stupid, for The Matrix, and there was a fella on there, and I hated him for years and years, right?
Prior or because of this?
Because of this. Right. I mean, he wasn't like, he had like a cool sort of like robot thing on his hand that like controls his like nerve input. He had some sort of accident or a problem with his hands, and he had like this interface thing that would like trigger his fingers. But he basically said that, you know, he thought that Neo was a party pooper because he was trying to bring the Matrix down and ruin the whole kind of thing and, you know, free everyone. I was just like, mate, you don't know what you're talking about. You're an idiot. Fuck off with your stupid robot arm, right? But then years and years later, I mean, this is how much this has been burnt into my brain. Like, the more I sort of thought about it over the years, I'm just like, do you know what? You're absolutely right. Because if you got everyone that's all hooked up to the Matrix, if you got all of them together in a room and just went, right, everyone, you're in a massive computer program. None of this is real. You can eat whatever you want, do whatever you want. It's like lucid dreaming.
Yeah.
You go, yeah, you want to fly? Sure, you can fly. You want to do sweet combos and, you know, kick over cars and stuff? Yeah, you can do all of that. Why wouldn't you want to be in that thing? And then Neo, you got this guy coming along who wants to ruin the whole thing. I'd be like, no, fuck off, Neo. Now that I know about this, I want to fly.
This is the best thing in the world.
Kind of cool shit. Yeah, hook me up. I'll be a battery for the machines if they keep this shit running. Yeah. Absolutely. And that guy is a genius.
No, it's just because it's just a bit.
I just had like an internal struggle with him for about 20 years.
Yeah, because he said something bad about something that you like. that's just human nature. But how old was he? How old was he in that?
Oh, it's sort of like 40, 50.
Yeah, so he's got a much more complex view on things than you had when you was 12.
Yeah, he wasn't a blogger or something. He was like, well, this is my opinion on this, which is obviously exactly what we're doing.
Yeah, it is, but in a different way. Like I say, I'm really looking forward to it, but it looks like... It definitely looks like a more... What's the word? So, like, in a more artistic... Like, in terms of cinematography and stuff. That's going to be down to the fact that we've got better cameras, we've got better, like, colour corrected technology and, like, special effects and stuff. But they've kept some of the bits that make it the Matrix. Potentially, because we've only got one of the... oh my god. What are the names? The directors.
Wachowskis.
Yes. We've only got one of them this time round. So it's going to depend on... She may have a different outlook on what the Matrix should be. Rather than when they're a collective. But... just from the trailer, I'm very excited. More so because what we were talking about, it being in and out of the real world and inside the Matrix, and we're like, fuck the real world, I just want to be in the Matrix. Seeing this, I'm very interested to see the real world.
What is going on in the real world? Well, this is it, right? Because I always thought, or at least, you know, when I've been thinking about this, it's just like, okay, well, how do you do this? Because at the end of Revolutions, like, the Architect and the Oracle are talking, and the Oracle's like, well, what are you going to do with all the humans, as in all the battery ones? And the Architect's like, well, they'll be freed, obviously. But I think in the Matrix Online, there's a part of it where, like, like you said, like, oh, you know, the war with the machines is over, and, you know, you have the choice: do you want to stay in the simulation or do you want to leave?
Yeah.
Because, like, I don't think you could just wake all of those people up. Firstly, all the machines would die.
Yeah.
Secondly, what would you do with them? You go, oh, hi everyone, sorry about that. That was all a computer simulation. Now you get to live in absolute horrific conditions with no food. With yeah, like, now you need to be a specialist in, like, incredibly complicated, like, mechanical shit to keep everybody alive. You know, you need to learn how to be a computer coder or whatever. And he's like, oh, I was a postman for 30 years. You can't introduce me all of a sudden into the post-apocalyptic world. Like, there's no way of just shutting that whole system down and releasing everyone. I think it would have to be kind of like what they were showing in a way. Yeah. Like, it would be an interview. And if they thought that you were somewhat either of use to the humans, or you would reject the Matrix, maybe, you would be sort of like drip-fed information. Yeah, and then you would be given the option to release, and the machines wouldn't kick off about it. You know, they wouldn't drop you in a fucking hole. They'd be like, right, we've got one over here, right, you take him. But then that obviously begs the question, well, what happened with the war? Like, the war ended because of Neo, so is there still some sort of, like, weird truce going on? Did the war come to an end? Is someone, you know, are the machines resentful of it or something? So to try and understand the justification for this film to exist, knowing what happens at the end of the other ones, you know, Neo presumably dead, Trinity dead, in the Matrix Online, Morpheus dead. Like, all of these sort of, like, key characters, they were all killed off.
You'd have to, even though Matrix Online was canon to the franchise, because it's not broad enough, like not enough.
Is it canonical?
I wouldn't assume that they would go, well, this happened in Matrix Online, so this needs to tie into this movie.
This happened in the Matrix Online 16 years ago, and what do you mean you didn't know about it? Like, we're not explaining it all again.
No, but I mean, like, it's the same concept.
But Lawrence Fishburne isn't back.
He's not back. We have a younger Morpheus, though.
Well, is it Morpheus?
Yes, because he was cast as Morpheus.
But is it actually Morpheus, as in Lawrence Fishburne Morpheus?
As far as I'm aware, like, because when Lawrence Fishburne was interviewed, and he said he hasn't been asked to come back, but they have got a younger person. They have got somebody playing a younger version of Morpheus. Morpheus.
I mean, vampires and werewolves are in the Matrix.
Yeah, exactly.
But then, but it can't be a younger version of Morpheus, because that wouldn't make any sense.
Well,
timeline-wise. I mean, to just say we've just recast it to someone younger, for sure. That's a bit of a dick move to Lawrence Fishburne, but...
No, I imagine it's got a specific story reason, because, like, he would have done it, and it wouldn't have endangered this franchise in any way to have one of the coolest characters back in it. But, like, this could just be something like where maybe this is the first time he was introduced to the Matrix.
But
that's that version
this is with
of Morpheus.
a Neo that's been in the Matrix for 20 years. Like, that wouldn't say like, oh, this is just him, but a prequel version. Like, if it was like, oh, this is just a program of myself I uploaded into the training program or whatever.
It could just be anything like that.
But we also see him in the real world. So I just don't know. This is it. This is the whole thing. It's just like, is it a disguise? Is it a program? Is it an illusion? Is it a dream?
Because
like,
even the agents are different people. Not person.
Well, yeah, but I mean, that makes sense. I tell you what, I did sort of, I don't really freeze frame through a lot of this stuff. But for this one I did, because there was a couple of things that I picked up on that I wanted to see if you had either thought on or if you'd seen it as well. So Neo goes into like a cafe or something like that, and he finds this sort of youngish Asian girl that's reading Alice in Wonderland. Now, I googled this straight away, as in what?
The rabbit hole.
No, I mean, obviously, but I mean, there's still the woman with the rabbit.
We were going.
No, I mean, that's not obvious, for God's sake. But the girl herself, I was like, is that Sati? Like, the little girl from the train station? Like, she was a program that was being smuggled into the Matrix by the Merovingian. So I was like, oh my God, is that her? Like, is that just her as she is now? Googled it, it's not.
No.
Like, it's not the same actress.
That'd be cool.
That's not to say
it's not the same.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then right at the end, Neo is talking to a dude, and he's like, "Oh, you know, why would you want to come back to the Matrix, sort of thing? Why are you back here again?" And I was like, "That guy looks really familiar, and I can't place him." But I don't cheat with these things. I don't go, "Who's the dude at the end of the Matrix trailer?" I was just like, "I'm going to figure this out." And I looked at it, and I was like, "Is it the guy that, you know, like the sort of 16-year-old or whatever it is that's like loading bullets into like the mechs?" He was like, Neo freed him. He's one of the dudes from the Animatrix called Kid.
I know, yeah, I know. So
like, when it's in like Reloaded,
I can't picture him, but
they come in and then it's like Neo, and it's like this kid who's like absolutely fallen to life for him. Just play that again. But I was just like, it looks a bit like him. Googled it. It is him.
Cool.
So it's that kid who like Neo freed however long ago, and for some reason he must just be an operator, like an agent or something. Not an agent, but like what they called, like a red pillar or something like that, like a Matrix operative. But they got him back to do that, and I was like, oh, that is cool. That's a nice little thing to have him back in whatever role he's going to do. But yeah, individual parts about the trailer itself, though. So Neo's going through therapy. I'm sure that is... So this is my thinking for Neo. Again, I haven't looked into this online, so if all of this is absolute nonsense, it wouldn't surprise me. But I prefer to get my own sort of train of thought on this sort of stuff rather than just go, what does all this mean? But if Neo did actually die, or his body died in Revolutions after he fought Smith, if he is indeed the one and he can't die, then his body may very well have died, or he was just so out of it that the machines just kept him and popped him and apart him and just like, well, we can't, like, we physically can't kill him, like, you know, this prophecy, blah blah blah. Or if they got rid of, like, burned his body or whatever, but his digital image is still inside the Matrix because, again, he's the one in there and you cannot get rid of him. So what they've done instead is they've neutered him, basically. So they've gone,
cut his dick off.
It's the Matrix, anything goes. So then they give him, you know, the blue pills, and he's just taking blue pills to, like, you know, get rid of his anxiety or whatever, you know. And then they've got Neil Patrick Harris there, who's like a program making sure that Neo isn't trying to come back. Yeah,
he's not trying to put things back in place and.
Yeah, so he's like, oh, am I going crazy? I'm having all these dreams, like his memories of, you know, what happened before. And I reckon that it'd be him who's feeding him these blue pills. Just be like, oh, you know, you just need to up your dosage, and that will help stop them, whatever, because they're trying to suppress who he is.
Yeah.
And the Resistance, so your Morpheuses and your new characters, they either weren't looking for him because they thought he was dead, or they, you know, Morpheus had another prophecy or whatever, and he was just like, no, he definitely can't be dead, and it's taken them this long to actually find him.
Where he is, yeah.
And then they're like, oh, thank God, it's Neo, right, don't take any more blue pills. You're Jesus in here, mate. Like, you can fly and shoot lasers and all that sort of stuff. That's what you're all
just
about.
Like Jesus.
Just like, fuck that. Or he has sort of like you know, the machines know exactly who he is, where he is, and they've purposefully been keeping them off the scent.
Maybe.
Until he comes across Trinity. But again, how does Trinity play into this? Because she is well and truly dead at the end of Revolutions. Like, they slam that big old ship into the machine city, and she gets just like skewered with all these fucking pipes and shit. She dies there and then. She wasn't in the Matrix when she died. So, my question to you is, I think it's one of the few things, but I want to see if you think something similar or something different, right? So I think either the machines found her and they slapped her in a pod, like one of the goo pods, and kept her sort of going like a life support machine, and then they just dumped her back in the Matrix because why not? Yeah. 2, like Neo has created her himself. She's like an illusion, or like not like a what's the fucking word? Like when you just create a thing, begins with an H.
Hologram?
No.
Hallucination.
Yes, a hallucination, but I sort of discounted that because, you know, you sort of see the Matrix code go down the side of the face. I was going to say,
like, I'm pretty sure...
Let me finish! Or is it a program? Like, the machines, like, have they used her as like a disguise or something to like try and trick him or do something? I don't know. It could be anything. What do you think?
Well, I don't think it's hallucination, because I'm pretty sure in the trailer when they jump out of the window, that the window both sides breaks. So as they jump through, I'd say it's playing now. We haven't got there yet, but when him
I thought it was no, it's like Morpheus and one of the new agent, the new Matrixes. Right. I think so. Yeah, the girl with the cool hair.
But that would be a telltale sign, is looking at, because I know there's when he stops the bullets and she's to the side of him and she's reacting to the bullets, which if it was in his head, that could, because he can't see her, there would be no need for it to react. That could just be thinking too much into something like that. I don't think it's hallucination. I think potentially it's a program, or what would be likely is they have kept her alive somehow and forced her back in because she's worth keeping in the Matrix. I don't know, like,
but if what they're alluding to is that, like, she's sort of like she kickstarts his brain into thinking like something doesn't, like, all of this seems odd and off, and I don't know why would you keep someone around?
What if it's not the machines doing it? What if it's the Resistance?
Oh, so they pop her in to be like, look, we can't just go up to him and just be like, hey, you're the one, you can fly, and you saved everyone from the Matrix, and he's just like, ugh. So they just sort of like send her in. But where is it? 209. There is someone coming out of like a pod.
I think that is someone... Neo.
Well, that's the thing, right? I couldn't make out really. It's very sort of. It's an odd angle and goopy. And
it's too much goop on his face and head.
It's either Neo or Carrie-Anne Moss, I think.
I think it's Neo. I think.
Well, but that's the thing. We'll have to sort of see as to who that is, assuming that any of this ends up in the bloody.
That's literally just come up on the trailer. It's Keanu Reeves.
Oh, cool. So that's what they've done then. They've just popped his body in a pod and just sort of kept him. Sort of.
But that could even be like a kind of like a previously on the Matrix, and it's just like an update.
When Neo was in this pod.
I mean, it could even be. Maybe that's why Morpheus looks like Morpheus in this, because Morpheus has gone in, but his disguise is Trinity. Because he's in it, they can't use Lawrence Fishburne, so they've had to make his character look like a different person. And then when they come out of the Matrix, and he's like, "Ah, Trinity, I love you." Oh, and then it's Lawrence Fishburne.
Well, when Neo goes up to that mirror and like his image just sort of fluctuates in it, is that because? Yeah, but is that because like have the machines done that on purpose? Like, because I couldn't tell whether he's seeing someone different or if it's disguising him as someone different.
No, it's definitely him as an old man Keanu.
Well, I thought it was just like I thought he'd be like, oh, you know, the machines are like, well, we've got to keep him in the Matrix because we can't kick him out. He's invincible or whatever.
It could be a case of
what we can do is we can disguise him so he doesn't know he looks like Neo, and if the Resistance is looking in the Matrix, he would just be some rando.
Yeah, he just looks like a person. It could be something as simple as at that point he stopped taking the blue pills, and things are starting to kick in a bit more. He's noticing the world isn't quite what it is. Because I mean, there's a bit where after he's taken the pills and he's like up against the mirror and he's like checking his eyes and stuff like that. I think it's. I'm really hoping this is going to be way more like psychological than the other ones. Like, I want it to be like very action heavy and like cool effects and all that stuff, but like we were discussing, that bit has just come on. Before it goes to an older Neo, it goes to a completely different person.
Right. Okay. That. Maybe that is like the machines have like cloaked him.
Yeah.
So you couldn't just go.
Could be a very good point.
Aren't you Neo? Didn't you save everyone then die or something?
Yeah. That was definitely a different person. Definitely.
Yeah. Well, that's what I caught from it anyway. But there's a couple of things where like he's obviously got like. This is the thing, right? Because it seems like if he's just sort of reawakening his ability, I don't know. Like he just seems to be like, you know, he's doing his old bullet stop thing, but then like he's like deflecting a missile, and then like when they're on the motorbike and he like crushes a car or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's just like, is this him just still sort of getting to grips with it? Because
maybe
like the Neo after, you know, kind of the original Matrix in the other two films, like he knew what the deal was, and he was like, I don't need to, like, that's why. And I was watching something the other day and someone mentioned it and I was just like, how have I never noticed that? With the amount that I've watched this, how have I never noticed that before? In the second and third films, Neo never uses a gun.
No,
because he doesn't need to.
It's all predominantly like kung fu.
Yeah, because why would he need to? Like, there's nothing that a bullet could do that he couldn't do himself. So I don't know if what they're showing is him just sort of, he's just like, oh, I've got like God power, God mode, squish and crush, and like he doesn't get past the point where it's just like, I don't need to do any of that actually. I don't need to ride on a motorbike. I can fly. Like it's like it's the Clark Kent sort of discovering his powers again kind of deal.
Yeah, makes sense.
What they've done. Yeah, which does. You know, he's he knows that he can do things, but it's whether he believes that he can, I suppose, is another thing.
You gotta believe.
Well, that was the whole thing of the first one. It's just like when you realise what you are, then you will become unstoppable, and nothing will be able to touch you. Because if he got shot in the Matrix and died, and he came back, and then he was taken over by Smith, and then died, and then he's back again. Surely you'd be like, I tell you what, I think I'll be fine.
I think I'll be fine.
You shoot your bullets in that. Even if I didn't try and block them, I think I'll be fine. Like, well, apparently I've died quite a few times, and I've been all right.
You don't know how, maybe it gets lesser and lesser over time. So if you die too many times, because obviously he's got to be good enough to just like not get shot. Otherwise, he's just Mr. Magoo.
But I don't know. It feels like that they've focused on like Neo and he's reawakening. Well, that you could have called it that if it was just all a Neo movie, the Matrix Reawakenings.
Well, because if Trinity's coming back and everything else, maybe it is a resurrection.
Well, maybe, but it seems
maybe we're looking at the wrong people.
Very heavily on Neo and Trinity.
Because they're the main ones. But
they were. But if this new series of films, I thought it would be more sort of like, you know, Neo is just sort of like, you know, he's a hero, but he's more sort of like an urban legend kind of thing. You know, the Matrix that exists, but
I hate that.
No one...
That was the main problem, other than the fact that it was shit. But with the Enter the Matrix, why do I want to play as anyone but Neo?
Yeah. But as you know, as incredible as Keanu Reeves is, he can't do this forever.
No. But as a return to the franchise after all of these years, for it to not be a Neo movie would be that'd be a suicide.
I think it would be more sort of like a baton handing over, sort of like
play it out. So at the end of this, we've got a new The One, or we've got
maybe like it's a new version
team
of the Matrix,
or whatever. Yeah. Now it's on fiber optic, but the bulk of this film has to be about Neo, purely as I don't mean fan service. I don't agree with just putting stuff in just to please people. It's got to warrant being there. It's got to move the film along, the story along rather. Introduce these new people into it and have it just be a natural order. Because if this came out and it wasn't about Neo, that's not natural.
Yeah.
And I, for one, don't want to wait X amount of years to watch a new Matrix film that's not about Neo. Especially after how shit the last two was. Not shit.
In your opinion?
They're not the worst films in the world. That's not just my opinion. That's a good portion of the world's opinions. And it's still better than some films.
Yeah.
But
certainly better than most sequels.
Not Die Hard 2.
No, I didn't say all sequels ever. It's not as good as Aliens. It's not as good as Terminator 2. Every sequel that's ever been made.
It's fundamentally well known that Terminator 2 is the best sequel of all time.
Oh, yeah, absolutely it is.
Definitely.
Except until The Matrix 4 comes along. Maybe.
Wait, is that a sequel? Is it a fourquel?
A quadquel.
A quadquel? That's around the Big Bang Theory, isn't it?
There's a thing right at the start of the trailer which kind of there's an interesting thing you said. Are you just going to cut me off again? Yeah.
Yeah. Because I wanted to get it in.
That's what she said.
Heyo.
But at the very start of the trailer, there's like it sort of like pans in and there's like those buildings. It's presumably where he's having his interview or whatever, and they just look so fake. Like it's purposefully like a real street doesn't look like that. Yeah, because it just sort of like it just looking at it. I think if you just showed someone a picture of that, I think they go, there's something that doesn't feel right about this. Like the architecture is just too different between buildings and stuff. It just looks like it's made up.
But that seems to be just the theme of with Neo. Like this something doesn't feel right.
Yeah, and that goes back to something that Morpheus says, like in the first one. It's just like, have you ever felt like it's like a scratch in the back of your mind? Yeah. So it's like there's something that's wrong, and I can't vocalize it, and I don't know what it is, but there is something wrong.
But these are probably more like visual ways of going. Something's not right in the world.
It feels a bit creepy.
Yeah, so it's purposely like even just some of the cinematography shots where it's like I don't know if they're in an elevator or a hallway or something, but it's like an overhead shot.
Oh yeah, and he looks up, but it's like at the bottom. I was just like, my brain can't figure that out. Is that is he in a lift or is that a mirror or very
like purposely claustrophobic yet otherworldly at the same time? Obviously these are all by design, and I assume they chose to do. They just go and go. Keep that shot. That's all right. That is. Somebody dropped the phone and it set a thing off and whatnot. But then,
there's some. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say. Then you go from some of these shots that are very. You've got some of the Matrix slow-mo, trademark slow-mo stuff in there.
A bit tweaked, but it's
yeah. So it's not as John Woo. It's more video gamey, so it is like a and then speeds back into it like a lot faster. So it's not just like 10 minutes of somebody waving their arms about.
But maybe it's because at the time, although it wasn't the first,
it made it
thing
mainstream
to ever do that. Yeah, it absolutely.
I mean, John Woo had been doing this for like
people's
10 years prior, maybe longer.
But it was still like all of those shots they were made with like 200 cameras, like taking a picture each.
Photos all the way around.
That is just thinking outside the box to make a cool looking shot, rather than just getting a camera on a wire and just doing that. They just went, we want it to be perfectly still.
Do it that way.
Yeah, because you need that sort of like everything needs to be absolutely frozen, but we need that camera move. Like that, you couldn't do it at that sort of point in time. But
it's very clever.
As as sort of groundbreaking as that was, that kind of overall technique and how good they got it all looking, to do it again now, if you did that same thing and just a bullet zipping past them, and you'd be like, well, you did that 20 years ago. Let's see some new stuff. Like there's a shot like where like there's that woman who like jumps off the roof and she does like a weird flip and then like lands on a corner and like bounces off. So I think there's going to be like some cool sort of like Matrix parkour kind of like you know, sort of like doing some weird runs at walls and stuff like that.
And there's like the thing where like
a door opens and then like it like the camera like does a backflip when like follows someone in and they go up on the wall, and I was just like, whoa, that was really disorientating. That looked awesome.
This is what I mean though, like this is why I think this could be the definitive Matrix film, where we're in a time where we can do those things. And back in the day you'd have to be very smart about how you'd create this kind of stuff, and I think it was a very purposeful thing to make it kind of not steampunk, that's definitely the wrong word, but because you don't know what time period it is. Like, you got really old shitty computers and stuff, but you got very futuristic things at the same time, and you got this, but it helps. I don't want to compare them because they're very different, but like Gotham's all, you got like really old like squad cars for the police force and stuff, and like rotary phones, but they've also got mobiles.
Sabrina did the same thing as well.
And it tells your brain this is because it's not a specific time period, you don't expect, and so nothing really looks out of place. And because they made it kind of look old and kind of like grimy and this, that and the other, I think some of that was also because of the drawbacks they had with the technology of the era. Whereas this looks like a film where they've gone, here's $45 billion. Do whatever the fuck you want. And everything
that mirror thing that you spent like weeks and months making. It's like it's the Photoshop filter for that. You do it in 10 minutes now.
Well, that's the thing. We've got all these like. There's a lot of these things in not just the Matrix, in a lot of AAA films that you can do in After Effects, and they've took that to a whole new level, and it just looks like what I would imagine the Matrix looked like to us when we first watched it. It clearly didn't look that good. But like, you know what I mean, though.
It's because I think you probably weren't exposed to it in that way.
Yeah.
Like with just that, there's kind of like cool fight scenes and like
leather.
It's so much leather. I mean, I like the fact that they kind of moved away from that, so it's not all like everyone looks like they're in Blade.
Yeah.
But there's like it seems like there's like with Neo being out of action, so to speak. Like agents, they're a threat again. Because before, you just be like, Neo, can you just get in here and just sort this out? And the agents wouldn't really be able to do anything against him, and he was just so overpowered, in a good way. Yeah. Whereas now, it just feels like now we've got these sort of like new crew members, maybe, who they're gonna have to be on the run from. They can't have Neo as backup to just fly in and blow them up or whatever. Like, they're going to have to outthink and outrun these guys again, which makes me think it's kind of like it's it'd be like a level from Mirror's Edge. Where it's just like there's an unstoppable thing after you and it's going to kill you if it catches you. You've got to go, and you've just got to be creative about it. And I think like some of the sort of the fear and the tension, like you remember that whole thing in the Matrix 1 where like Neo finally stands up to Smith in the subway and then he finally beats him, and then that victory's like, yay, and then it lasts for about 3 seconds before he just gets off the train again. It's like, oh yeah, you can't kill these guys, shit. And then it's just this whole chase where he's just trying desperately to get, like, he knows that he's probably the one by this point, and he's just kicked shit out of him in a fight, but he still knows that I can't beat this guy. Yeah, I've just got to go. Like, for just normal people, like going up against like agents and stuff, like even like Morpheus and Trinity and stuff like that in the second and third films, they felt a bit more cocky when it came to like, because the whole thing in the first one was like, you see an agent, you run, you just run.
Now I'm going to jump in the car with a sword.
Yeah, like Morpheus is just like, yeah, I'll just be on top, I'll just take this guy on with a sword for a bit, and then Trinity's just like, yeah, I'll just shoot this guy with some Uzis and just try and look. It's just like because Trinity's killed an agent, which is pretty good going. I mean, to be fair, he was kind of distracted, but that's not the point. He'd just been like, none of those bullets hit that guy, and then it's just like gone, and he's just like, oh no, bang. But it just felt that they just sort of like, oh, these things. It's like watching a god bleed. You'd be like, oh, they're not invincible. They can be beaten. And then if you think you're good enough, then maybe you can take them on or whatever. Yeah. But just like see like a whole new maybe new crew that's never seen Neo in action and never known what he can do, an agent is still a terrifying, unbelievable monster threat, and you need to be absolutely on your guard. I think that this, our sort of our motto of kind of PvP and these sort of when we talk about these new kind of cool films that are coming out and things like that, is that you can never trust a trailer.
No,
you never put all your eggs in one basket, and a trailer doesn't necessarily represent what that final product's going to look like. I think this is the only time that if I don't enjoy The Matrix 4, I will absolutely be devastated.
I think it is, but I think that's just the unfortunate risk of getting into a franchise. I mean, we can't say Keanu Reeves would go, nah, this isn't good, I'm not going to do it, because he did Bill and Ted. So he's not afraid to make some money.
Yeah, that seemed like he was doing a favour more than anything.
Alex Winters needed to pay some electric bills and stuff. But I don't know. I've got a feel. I'm very surprised. No, I'm not surprised. I am surprised in how different this film is than what I expected. Trailer, sorry, not film. Obviously, we haven't seen the film.
It looks a lot more introspective than just sort of like, oh, remember all the bullet time and the cool flips and stuff? It's just that times 1,000 now.
Which it could have been.
Yeah.
It could have just been the Matrix. We got rid of the leather, but now there's more guns. But it's...
Remember those big racks of guns? Well, now there's buildings full of guns, there's lasers and spaceships. It could be like the Fast and Furious, it's just, it escalates.
All they need to do is make the film, and they've made 10 times what it cost to make, and they know that. And I honestly don't think Warner Brothers would put this film out at Christmas against Spider-Man if it wasn't good.
A tentpole.
They're not stupid. They've had enough flops
Spider-Man
this
pushed
year.
back though?
No, Spider-Man's out December.
No, wasn't it pushed back to December though?
Yeah, but obviously we already knew that when this trailer come out, obviously we already know Spider-Man's out. They could go, ooh, January, because that's what you would think.
If they've got to, if that's always been their release window.
No, not necessarily. We've had who pushed Assassin's Creed came out at the same time. It should have been out at the same time as Cyberpunk, and when Cyberpunk come out and went, this is the day it comes out, Ubisoft went, well, fuck that, let's bring Assassin's Creed forward. And that's why it came out first. Because they're not stupid. I suppose with all the money that goes into marketing and stuff like that, though, I just don't know how easy it is to just change that release date. Because you'd have to be constantly, because if you go, right, we're going to release it in December, and then you go, Spider-Man going to release in December, and they go, well, we've already committed too much to this, we're just going to have to see how it goes. That's the thing, they haven't committed anything to it, because this is the first thing we've seen.
Yeah,
so there's no expectation.
But to be fair though, it could be two different audiences. You've got like your more sort of younger audiences and your MCU fans and stuff like that who are going to see Spider-Man. But there's people our age who who've grown up around the Matrix and go, oh, that'd be cool to see another one of those again. And then you watch this trailer, and you're like, this doesn't look like it's dog shit. Like, is this going to be really good?
This is also, again, this is the Spider-Man film. We've got Alfred Molina back. We're going to have potentially, we're going to have 3 Spider-Men. We've got multiverse stuff going on. You'd be fucking stupid not to go and see it. And I'm not saying they're going to be out on the same day, but there's the majority
to Christmas, certainly.
Yeah, it's very close to Christmas, and the majority of people will go like me. If it was out the same day, we can watch one.
Well, that'd be the question then.
Yeah.
Which would you go and see then?
Spider-Man.
Incorrect.
No, that's what I'd go and see. Spider-Man.
No, you're wrong. No, you're wrong. You're absolutely wrong.
I don't.
And I'll tell you why. Because I know that Spider-Man's going to be really good. I don't have to go and see that day one to know that's going to be really good.
That's what I'm saying. Because I've got to sort out babysitters and stuff, and then I've got to figure out a day.
Well, you can bring him along with you for that.
Exactly. I can't for the Matrix. So either way, I can only go and see Spider-Man.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah.
But it's with it being so close to Christmas, we just spent $1 billion on Christmas presents and stuff. But that's what it will be for a lot of people. So I'd be very surprised if it's within the same kind of week or like that kind of period.
Yeah.
Even more so if this is at Christmas Day. This is also
that'd be risky.
Matrix is on HBO Max as well.
HBO, yeah. Well, this is the thing, right? Because as soon as I knew that all of the Warner Brother releases in 2021 were all going to come out on HBO Max as well, I was just like, do you know what? I'm looking forward to The Matrix, but I'll just watch it. I'll just watch it at home. I think that'll be fine. And then after I've seen this trailer, I just like I think I will actually have to go to the cinema to watch this.
Well, no, because
like,
again,
this seems like it would just be just so big and cool. Like I've already had someone who says, like, she'll come round. We'll watch all of the Matrixes. We'll watch the Animatrix. Then we'll go and see the new one.
You can watch Ghost in the Shell as well.
Never heard of it.
Not the Scarlett.
Oh, do you mean
not the Scarlett Johansson film? No, the original anime.
That's nothing to do with the Matrix. It's fine. But I genuinely, I think I am like if that Spider-Man trailer, we've talked about it before, but it looks awesome. You know, Alfred Molina and Willem Dafoe and potentially other Spider-Mans and Strange is going to be in there as well. The concept itself is going to be amazing. But if it's dog shit, I'll be like, well, maybe they just bit off a bit more than they can chew. You know, historically, Spider-Man films that have got a ton of people in it, they haven't really worked too well. So, you know, maybe that's you know, this is one where if it's no good, it will more than likely, that would be it. Like, it would be another decade before they even consider revisiting it. But if this works, then I reckon a new crew, like a new bunch of people that are going to be, you know, that you can make films about.
Like the cavemen people, they got to do with it.
Yeah, it's the caveman Matrix, yeah. But 100% Warner Brothers would greenlight a video game, either to go along with the film or something to do with the Matrix universe as a whole. I
don't think so up to now. I'd like them to, but it has to be in the right way. But I do think it's a bad idea doing this release so close to Christmas, so close to Spider-Man, and putting it on HBO Max. If, as we all know with movies, it can be as well received as it likes, but if it doesn't make enough money, it's off the table. And in some instances, it makes enough money and it is well received. They just go, nah, fuck it.
But so, I don't know. It's like, why wait till now to do one then? Like, if they had no faith in the franchise as a whole, why even bother with this?
No, I don't think it's that. I think it's literally a case of the directors going, because I assume there's only the one sister directing because they've maybe had artistic differences in where they wanted the franchise to go.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I mean, I know it's only Lana Wachowski, I think it is, that's directing this. But I could have sworn that from like early shit, it was the Wachowskis, like they were still double teaming this. So yeah, maybe it's just sort of like, you know, everyone's fallen back to a producer role or script writer or something.
No, just not involved whatsoever. Not involved whatsoever.
At all?
No.
Really?
She said not like she didn't come out and go, it's not what I wanted it to be. She just said she didn't feel she hadn't. Well, I can't remember what the actual quote was now, but it's basically. I don't feel enough to do it. Like, I haven't got enough. Whether it's ideas or, again, I think it's most likely this is the idea they wanted to do, and she was like, I don't think we should go in that direction. That would be a guess. Obviously, I wasn't there. I can't say for definite, but I think it is very telling how different this looks to the previous films. Not just to special effects and budget and stuff like that, just in tonally, and like say it seems a lot more psychological and like kind of like a character study, and that kind of, and it's just very different to the other films, and I like it. And I think perhaps maybe if we'd have gone in another direction where they were both directing it, it would be a bit more like gung-ho action, slow-mo leather, all that.
Maybe this is just, maybe it's a more mature version of this. So rather than just cool kicks and flips and guns and explosions and stuff, maybe it's sort of like, you know, the Matrix, like what's the mental toll that, you know, having all that power, or, you know, being the savior of whatever, you know, what does that all mean and how does that make you feel, sort of thing. You know, and especially with like so much emphasis these days on like, you know, mental health awareness, people keeping track of their own state of mind, and like if you're doubting your own sanity, you know, and then it turns out that, or, you know, all these sort of like crazy hallucinations and visions, or dreams or memories that you're having. Turns out they were all true.
Yeah.
And like, oh, we all need you, Neo, for whatever reason. Again, why do they need him? Let's say they find him. It's a bonus to find him.
Someone's going to be kicking
is
off.
there like, is there a machine, a machine like who's just sort of like, well, I wanted the war, frankly. Like that's my reason for existing. Like again, they made a point of that in Revolutions. They're like, as soon as the machine doesn't have a need to exist, it's deleted. The program, it's deleted. As a machine probably would. So if you're like the battle bot, and your job is to like, how do we defend against the humans? How do we try and take out the humans? How do we stop them getting into the Matrix? And you're like planning all of this out, and all of a sudden you're redundant. Yeah, well, you're not going to want to get deleted, do you? Yeah. You want to carry on that fight.
Very interesting.
But speaking of though, there's also another bit where it seems that Neo's in the real world again, but he's zapping Sentinels.
Yeah.
So what's all that
explodes
about?
All that shit up.
It looked like he had hair.
Yeah.
Why?
I mean,
I'll have to go back and watch it.
I will say, through the entire trailer, he doesn't go from like short hair to long hair. But
so is it a Matrix within a Matrix?
Could be. Maybe he is still dead.
An Inceptrix.
He's Leonardo DiCaprio.
Like he's in like a weird pocket dimension program.
What if it goes full circle and it turns out that Keanu Reeves as Neo is Neo in the Matrix, but within the Matrix, but outside the Matrix, it's Will Smith who was originally given the role.
That'd be a hell of a cameo, wouldn't it?
But no,
well, but maybe this isn't the Matrix that Neo was in. Maybe this is
anything.
a new Matrix
version.
for the. Yeah, exactly. So he's, they're just sort of like, look, Neo, we've been trying to find the new one, this new anomaly. We can't do it though because we haven't got an oracle anymore. But you, Neo, you could probably see the Matrix and tell out where they are. So do you want to help us and find that new one, and then we'll retire you, and then he'll take over the franchise from here?
That's a very possible, or she. That's a very possible theory of what it could be. The beauty of this trailer is
we don't
know anything.
Away, does it?
Absolutely nothing.
No.
In Spider-Man, we know Doc Ock's in it in some capacity. We know Green Goblin's in it in some capacity. Sandman, Electro, Spider-Man, potentially Spider-Men's. But we got a general idea. It's going to be multiverse stuff. There's going to be a Doctor Strange. There's going to be some funny portals. He's going to get a new costume. He's got two new costumes. We've got a general idea. We don't know what it is, but we got a general idea. With this, it could literally be anything because it's the Matrix. Yeah. We could get to the whole thing, and they could just go nah, and he wakes up and he's back where he was chasing the rabbit, and it was all a dream.
Yeah, I mean that would be the worst sequel ever. But there's a lot of unanswered stuff, and there's a lot of like things like time wise.
It is, but
just sort of like, well, how is that person still alive? Like, is it actually Trinity? Like, is he seeing through the code? Is it a Matrix disguise code thing? It could be a fucking clone. It could be anything.
It could even be the machines doing it, and they are showing him Trinity. But he's within a contained program, and it's just to keep him like he does the same. It's just like a kind of a loop, and it's just constant.
Like a Groundhog Day.
So it just keeps him out of the way of what's actually going on within the main program, and it's just constant. Like
that's not about it.
It's the only thing that
like
will
a Black
keep
Mirror
him there.
episode.
Yeah, and it's just constantly going through and.
So he's just living that same day. He's seeing that same psychiatrist. He's taking his blue pills every day. And then he either manifests Trinity, or she's just in there, and they just finally bump into each other, and it triggers something. But yeah, I mean, it could just be, it could be an old version of the Matrix. It could be a new version of the Matrix. It could be a resistance version of the Matrix.
It's the smartphone version of the Matrix.
Yeah, like they went, right, okay, well we got peace now. We want Neo's body back, and they go, yeah, sure, give him, and then they go, right, let's pop him back in the Matrix and see if we can get his brain going again. So we put him in the Matrix and then use a psychiatrist to coach his world back into view. Yeah,
could be literally anything.
It could be any of them.
Could be anything.
Yeah. But only 3 months to go.
Yes,
and then we can
very close. We're going to wrap it up there, though, Dan.
Yes, indeed.
It's been a fun one. It's been something that, as we opened up with, we didn't expect any time soon that this was going to happen. Obviously, once we knew it was, it was kind of, well, we're going to have to do one of these videos for it. But I am very much looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to this weekend because we're going to watch The Matrix and the Animatrix. Maybe not the sequels, but I probably will. But I want Zoe to watch them. The first one is on Netflix because I saw it the other day, which is what gave me the idea.
I watched it.
Are the sequels on Netflix, or do I have to get?
I watched them also.
They are as well.
A couple of weeks ago.
I've got them on. I've got them on Blu-ray, but it's in a box in the loft, and I can't be arsed. So if they're on Netflix, I would just watch them all on that. But
nope, they absolutely are.
Thank you anyway, Dan. I assume you're going to go and take your pills now. And jump into the Matrix.
And then you can just post that out and just put the effects in.
I thought there's a wasp.
It's the Matrix B. The B-Trix.
The B-Trix. That's a Pokemon.
Well, I think it was a level in the Path of Neo where you fight big insects. It's like giant ant things.
I know there was one in Fahrenheit.
Yeah, there was.
And
that was just a thing at the time. They just fight giant Ant-Man.
That was a good Matrix game.
Ant-Man?
No, Fahrenheit.
Oh, right, yeah. Yeah, it really was. Yeah. It's like bullets time and everything.
That's what I mean.
Thing was in
That's
there.
what I was saying about like the Uncharted, using that as like a staple of thinking, because having it as a cinematic game, I'm going to stop this. But having it as a cinematic game, I think would work really well for that kind of thing. But it'd have to be done right, so it's not just super linear. But anyway, we're gonna go. We're just rambling on here. So yeah, thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next one. See you later, Dan.
See you in the Matrix.